Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Shofetim. Shofetim means judges. Parashat in the beginning deals with many of the laws concerning judges, about bribes, and about going after the majority, etc., etc., etc. And I'd like today to share with you a pasuk that we'll read it one way, and with our amateur eyes, it will sound like it's saying one thing. But then when we read it through the lens of the great Kabbalist, the Arizal, we'll see how it means something much, much deeper. And it's something that's talking not only to the judges, but it's talking to every one of us, and it's talking to all times of history. And this is something that that I got from Rabbi Jacobson on the yeshiva.net, but it's something that I really heard from my father many, many, many times, and he shared this idea with me, and I want to share it with you today. And we'll actually see it in the source from the words of the Arizal himself. The pasuk says, chapter 17, pasuk 8. And again, simple level, it's talking to judges. Ki paleh mimecha davar mishpat. If you are a judge and a case comes before you that's too much, that's too pele. What's ipale? Pele. What's pele? It's too wondrous. It's too baffling. You don't know what to do. There were courts, different size courts. If it was a very small city of less than 100 people, you had a court of 3 men. If there was more than 100 people, you had a court of 23 men. And then if it was the Supreme Court in Jerusalem, how many men did they have on the court? 71, right? So let's say you're a smaller court and you don't know what to do. You have a case, but you're stuck. You're stuck. You ever got stuck? You don't know what to do, right? You're not sure who's right, who's wrong. Ever happen in your marriage? You don't know what to do. What do? You don't know. You think one way and your wife thinks another way. Your spouse thinks another. Or you're in a business. You think one thing to do and the other partner thinks something else to do. You don't know. Sometimes in life you don't know. Sometimes you're stuck. Sometimes a case is beyond me. This is past my pay grade. What do? Ki paleh mimecha davar mishpat. If a case is too baffling for you to decide, be it a controversy, ben dam ledam, whether it's a controversy over blood. Rashi says, what does that mean, over blood? You're not sure, is it dam tahor or dam tameh? You don't know if this blood, let's say blood comes out of a lady, you don't know, is that blood make her tameh? Does she remain pure? You don't know. Ben din ledin, or if it's a question of civil law, din, you go, there's two parties, two different opinions, right? Money or criminal. Ben nega lenega, right? Or if it's a matter of negaim, right? What's nega? Leprosy. You don't know. Is this white? Is it off-white? Is the person tameh? Sometimes leprosy goes on the skin, sometimes on the clothing, sometimes on the house. You don't know what kind of leprosy is this. You're not sure. Yeah? You're not sure what kind of blood is it. You don't know what's the deen over here. You don't know what's the leprosy over here. You don't know. Divrei ribot she'arecha. Or any matter of dispute in your court. Okay? There's matters of dispute in your court. Vekamta ve'alita el hamakom. What you should do? What should you do? What do? Go to the place that God will show you. Yeah? Go to the holy place that God will show you, which is Jerusalem, and come to the Kohanim, to the Leviim, to the Shofet, to the judges that will be in charge, and ask them, and they'll tell you what the verdict is. Okay? Very simple halacha. Yeah? You don't know what to do. In the language of Chazal, Yavo hashlishi ve'yachriya benehem. Go get a third opinion. Go outside, ask a rabbi. You don't know what to do, ask a therapist. You don't know what to do, go and to the judge. You have to go ask the judge. Okay? If you're judges, you got to go to the Beit Din, to the Jerusalem, the holy Beit HaMikdash. Now, by the way, it's interesting just to note that it doesn't say here where that place that you should go is. It just says, go to the place that God will choose. We spoke about this last week. That it doesn't say in the Torah where that place is. It's brought down later. It's brought down in other places. But it doesn't say in the Torah where the place. It doesn't say that the holy place that God will choose is Yerushalayim, is Jerusalem, right? And the Rambam, we saw last week 3 reasons of why it doesn't specify, right? one of the reasons is, if the world knew that God would choose Jerusalem as the gateway to heaven, then they would fight over it. They wouldn't let us touch it, right? They would fight. We would fight. We would have amongst us fighting. We would, right? The tribe of Reuven would want it. Each tribe would want to have it in their place. Okay? So again, this is a very, very straightforward pasuk. It's talking to a judge, and it's telling the judge, if you have a dispute and you don't know what to do, go to the Supreme Court. Go to the Supreme Court where the main 71 members are sitting and ask them. Okay? This is very simple and straightforward, right? Any questions on this? I think it's very straightforward. However, my friends, I told you that today we're going to study the pasuk through the eyes, through the lens of the great Kabbalist from 500 years ago, the Arizal. Okay? And many of you may have gone to his grave in Tzfat. Maybe you even went into his mikveh, which is ice cold at any time of the year, right? In the summer, very refreshing, right? The Arizal, the holy Kabbalist, the Arizal, which really today, everything that we know of Kabbalah is only because of the Ari, right? Rav Yitzchak Luria, he is the one that brought it down. He watered it down for us and made it somewhat comprehensible, okay? So let us study today this very pasuk. And again, I'll read to you the pasuk again because I want you to ask yourself as you're reading this pasuk, is there anything deeper that could be going on here? Right? Again, on a simple level, it's what it's saying. It is what it is. If a case is too baffling for you to decide, whether it's a controversy of dam and dam, blood and blood, or din and din, civil law, nega and nega, leprosy and leprosy, divrei vot b'sharecha, or any dispute, then you should get up and go to the place that God will choose. Okay? I mean, that's it. It's very straightforward. There's not much more to this pasuk. Comes along the Arizal, and let us see what he says. Everyone ready? This is amazing stuff. He begins by quoting our sages. Amru Rabotenu, our rabbis, fill us in a conversation that took place between God and the angels. Okay? You know that there's conversations going on down here, and there's conversations going on up there. And not only are they listening to our conversations, but, right, not only is Google listening to your conversation, but the rabbis are also able to listen to God's conversation. And sometimes the Gemara fills us in on those conversations. Amru Rabotenu, shesha'alu malchei hasharet lekadosh baruch hu. The angels, one day, they asked God the following question. Ribono shel olam, master of the universe. You ready? This is a conversation, a question posed by the angels to God. Ribono shel olam, master of the universe. If you could ask God a question, what would you ask him? What would you ask him? Right? Which stock should I buy? Right? Well, what question, if you had one question to ask God, what would it be? So this is the question that the angels ask God. Ribono shel olam, master of the universe. Katafta betoratcha, you wrote in your Torah, there's a halacha, v'shafach amo, that when you slaughter an animal, you ever saw a slaughtering of an animal? Yeah? Maybe on Yom Kippur, when we do kaparot, before Yom Kippur, they slaughter the chicken. Yeah? The law is that certain creatures, when you slaughter them and there's blood, v'kisahu be'afar, you gotta cover it. We have to be sensitive. We have to have compassion to instill in us feelings of mercy, to cover the blood of the animal. To cover the blood of the animal, bury it. Not only the animal, but even the blood. Yeah? We become more merciful when we do that. So you wrote, God, that when you kill an animal and there's blood, you got to cover the blood. Virkan, however, when it comes to the destruction of Jerusalem, the pasuk says, Shafchu damam kamayim. The blood of the Jews was flowing like water. God, in the destruction, the blood was flowing, and you didn't cover it. You contradict yourself. You wrote you have to cover the blood, and you didn't cover the blood of your own children, of the Jewish people. How come? Question number 2. Katavta betoratcha, you wrote in your own Torah, that you cannot kill a mother and a child on the same day. You cannot slaughter an animal and its fetus and the baby on the same day. And you killed children with their mothers. You wrote, question number 3, you wrote in the Torah, V'tzivah kohen, regarding a house that has leprosy. Before you destroy the house, empty it out, remove the furniture. This way, even if the house is tameh, you could spare the furniture. You don't have to make everything tameh. You take out the dining room table. Remove the very expensive mattress that you just bought. This way you don't have to make those tameh. Spare the money of what's inside the house. And you, God, you destroyed the temple. V'kol klei machamadeha le'ashchit. You didn't do that. You didn't let us take out the treasures. You destroyed the house and the treasures. So God, this is the question of the angels. God, inconsistent. You're not even keeping your own Torah. You wrote in the Torah X, Y, and Z, but you broke all 3. You said that you have to cover blood. You didn't cover the blood. You said that you can't kill a mother and kid. You killed children with their parents. You said that you have to remove the furniture, and you destroyed the furniture. What's going on? Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God says back. You know what the answer of Hashem is? You know what God's answer is? Klum yesh shalom ba'olam. Is there peace in the world? Is there peace in the world? Was there shalom? Ho'il ve'en shalom. If there's no shalom in klum, then you have nothing. God saying, what are you asking me? That's not my problem. They didn't have peace. When there's no peace, you have no bracha. We have to realize, Rabotai, that all the bracha in life comes only because of peace. If you have everything but you don't have peace, you have 0. Nothing is more important than shalom. Think about a bowl that you want to carry and hold water. You want to hold good things in it. But if the bowl has holes, then you can't hold anything. If there's fighting in our marriages, then all the money is worth 0. If there's fighting with our kids, then no matter what we give them is worth 0. If there's fighting in a business, if there's fighting, anywhere there's fighting, there's no shalom, there's no bracha. There's no greater way to bring bracha and blessing. Rabbi, how do I get blessing into my life? You want blessing? You got to stop fighting with the people around you. You want blessing? You got to start increasing the love. Ahava. We have to start removing the hatred. We have to start removing the machlokets. We have to stop the fighting. That's the only way. Think about the Kohanim. The ending, the closing words of Kohanim. Shalom. The closing word of the Amidah. Hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. It's all about shalom. The last pasuk in Kaddish, shalom. Last pasuk in Birchat Hamazon, shalom. If you have shalom, then everything else will flow. And if we don't have shalom, nothing else matters. Nothing else will matter if there's no shalom. And we spoke about this in the past, that nothing is more important than the relationship. Nothing. Nothing. Whatever the issue is that we're arguing with our spouse about, it's okay. We'll argue. We don't have to agree. We don't have to agree. Everyone thinks alike. We don't have to agree. Everyone has different opinions. It's okay. You're allowed to hold what you think. I can hold what I think. But the moment that issue, the moment the machloket becomes personal, the moment it turns into a fight, then there's no more shalom. You think Shammai and Hillel agreed on everything? Of course not. They fought all the time. The whole Gemara is filled with machloket. The whole page. The Mishnah, there's 4 opinions. Then the Gemara, there's 4 opinions on what the opinions are saying in the Mishnah. And then Rashi thinks one way, and then Tosfot argues on him. I mean, everyone's arguing with everyone. If you're on the page, if you're there, it's because you argue. Right? No one's saying something that they agreed to other people about. Then what are you writing? Right? Everyone's arguing. It's not a problem to argue. It's not a problem to argue. In a marriage, you're allowed to argue with your spouse. Problem is, the moment that argument destroys the shalom. Nothing's more important than the peace in the home. The relationship. The moment we allow the issue to trump the relationship, the moment the issue becomes more important than the marriage, then we have maybe won the battle, but we have lost the war. There is nothing more important than the peace, than the harmony, and the relationship with our spouse. Much more damaging than the issue. Whatever the issue is, you don't want your kids to watch TV because you're afraid that it's going to ruin them. That's fine. You could hold that. And your wife holds what she holds, or your husband holds what they hold. It's okay. You don't agree. That's fine. You got to figure it out. You got to discuss it. Maybe go get a third opinion. I don't know what you should do. I can't help you resolve all your issues. But what I am here to tell you is don't let that issue become a fight. Don't let the issue become a fight. Nothing's more important than the family harmony. Nothing is more important. And the moment we start fighting, even if we win and we get our way in the issue, we have really lost. We have really lost. With our children, the relationship is the most important thing. If you get your kid to go to shul, but you destroy the relationship with your kid, then you lost everything. Nothing matters more than the shalom. Nothing, I'm telling you, nothing in life is more important than shalom. It's not worth ruining anything for the sake of shalom. Every other issue is secondary. And it doesn't mean that you should just always give in. You don't have to give in. Shammai held his guns. Hillel held on to his gun. Everyone held on to their own opinion. We're not meant to agree on everything. We don't think alike. There's not only one way to think. You're allowed to disagree. There's always going to be disagreements. It's okay. From the beginning of time. We're not meant to always have one opinion. Elu ve'elu. But to realize and to understand that we can agree to disagree. That I can hold my way and you could hold your way. And it doesn't have to become personal. I don't have to now cancel you. I don't have to shut you down. I don't have to destroy you. I don't have to talk negatively about you just because we don't see eye to eye. Yeah, it's okay. You could have your shul and I could have my shul. And maybe I'll never pray in your shul. It's not my flavor. It's not my speed. It's not my type. It's not my color. That's okay. I don't like your shul. You don't like my shul. But why does that have to make us into fighting now? Why does that now mean that we have to be personal? That we can't get along? Shammai and Hillel, you know how much they fought? They fought plenty. But guess what? Their kids got married to each other. Their kids married each other. Yeah. So that's what it means. That you could agree to disagree. I hold one way and you hold a different way. And we don't see eye to eye. And that's fine. You know the joke of the guy. He winds up on an island and he starts building 2 shuls. And someone says to him, why are you building 2 shuls? He says, this is the shul that I pray in. This is the shul that I don't pray in. Right? So sometimes we allow our disagreements to get personal. Right? There's no reason that the issue has to escalate. It's okay. It's okay. And by the way, 69% of issues usually will not end up being conformed one way or another. What you hold, you will hold for the rest of your life. And what your spouse holds, she'll hold for the rest of her, right? They'll hold for the rest of their life. Right? That's okay. It's okay. People don't get divorced because of issues. Issues everyone has. People get divorced because of fighting. When we allow the issue to become a fight, when we allow the issue to turn into a machloket means that there's fighting, it's personal. It doesn't have to get there. Right? It doesn't have to get there. That's the importance, my friends, of shalom. It's so important to make sure that we stress this. Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, when his wife died, listen to the story. When his wife died, at the funeral, he got up and he said, I don't have to ask mechila from my wife. I don't have to apologize. How many of you could say that? Who could say, I don't have to apologize to my spouse? Right? Okay, it's an amazing thing to be able to say. I don't have to apologize. Okay. A few weeks later, sometime later, he saw a student of his that was finishing up his first year of marriage. So the rabbi said to his student, "Nu, how was Shana Rishona? How was your first year?" He said, "Oh, Rabbi, it was amazing. We never disagreed." The rabbi said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, it was great. We never disagreed on anything." The rabbi said, "That's impossible." He says, "What do you mean that's impossible? That's what you just said at your wife's funeral. You said that you don't have to apologize to her." I said, I don't have to apologize, but it doesn't mean that we didn't disagree. Disagree? Plenty. Of course we disagreed. Of course I held my way and she held her way. Right? But I never had to apologize. I never allowed that disagreement to go to the next step of fighting. attacking and throwing in things and labeling and then taking it, right? That's a very different idea. So God says to the angels, don't ask me why children were dying with their parents and why blood was flowing and why the house was destroyed. Don't ask me that. Ask them that. There's no shalom, there's no bracha. When there's no shalom, nothing can be contained. There can be no room for blessing. When we're fighting with people, you have to realize, you know what you're doing when you're fighting? You're taking a big towel and you're clogging the pipe, trying to come down from the heavens, bringing you bracha in your life, whether it's health or money or children or the right type of spouse, a shidduch. You're blocking your own bracha when you're having machloket. Says the Arizal, V'chol zeh, this whole conversation, you should know, between God and the angels that took place at the destruction of the temple, Ramzal lanu HaTorah, already is hinted to in the Torah 2,000 years before it even happened. The whole conversation is alluded to in our Torah. You know where? In our pasuk. And let us go back now and restudy the pasuk that we started today's class with. Ki yipaleh mimecha davar lamishpat. If a matter eludes you in judgment, if you are baffled, and again, on a simple level, it's talking to judges, that if you don't know what to do, then you should go to a third opinion. But says the Arizal, no. Ki yipaleh mimecha davar. If you are wondering, if you are confused, if you're scratching your head and saying, I don't understand, how could it be that the Jews, 2,000 years later, and we're still being oppressed? Usually a nation suffers one time in history, and they smooth sail for the rest of history, for the rest of time, right? Every nation suffered once, and then they're good. How could it be that the Jews, every decade, every century, every millennia, there's another thing going on? Bechol dor vador, omdim aleinu lechalotenu. There's pogroms, and there's inquisitions, and there's holocausts. How could it be? What's going on? How could it be? What did the Jews do? You know, my friends, I want to tell you something, okay? Think about what I'm about to tell you, okay? Pay attention to this. Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Usually, the Be'er Yosef says, when there's a nation that's very strong, there are pros and cons. I'll explain in a minute. And then, if there's a nation that's very weak, there are pros and cons. Yeah? When a nation's very strong, there are pros. What's the pro of being strong? You're in charge. You get what you want. You get power. You get resources. You're in charge, right? You have power. But what's the downside of being very strong? Does anyone know? Anyone know? Let me ask you like this. What's the downside of being successful? What's the downside of being rich? What's the downside of having a lot of money? What's the downside of having a lot of power or a lot of fame or a lot of publicity? You know what the downside is? You're very strong because you have a lot of power, or you have a lot of money, you could afford a lot of things. But the downside is that you can never rest because you're always worried about people trying to take it from you. Think about nations. Think about nations that they're rich, they're powerful. Every nation's trying to take them over. When you're the best team in sports, right? The best team, you're the best team, so that's good. But also, you're the team that everyone's trying to beat. No one likes you, right? When you're very, 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 very powerful, then you have to have a lot of army men. You have to have a very strong, right, defense system, because every nation you know is trying to take you down, right? That's the downside of being rich or powerful. Now let's go to poverty. Poor people, weak people, they don't have, that's the downside. But there's an upside to being weak. You know what's the upside of being weak? You're very relaxed. You're very calm. No one's trying to kill you. No one's trying to defeat you. You're weak. You're a loser. No one cares about you. Right? Think about countries. Right? Country that's very powerful. They have to worry. They have to up their defense system. A country that's all the way in the corner of the world, tucked away somewhere, right? Canada, not very, very peaceful country, right? Ice skating and drinking beer. It's an amazing life. You know what I mean? It's a great system. No one cares about them because they're not fighting with anyone. No one's fighting, right? Okay, very, very simple, very peaceful, tucked away. They're not a world empire. They don't have to worry about defending their people though, right? It's a nice way to live. So every system has pros and cons. You ready for this? Says the Be'er Yosef, except for the Jewish people. The Jewish people, even when we're weak, you would think when we're weak, then nobody would pay attention to us. You would think that if we're weak, then the world will leave us alone. And for 2,000 years, we're weak, and we're kicked around, and yet the world still cares about us. Why? Why do you care about us? Jewish people, we have nothing. You think about it. Does anyone today pay attention to some random little country? No one pays attention to them. Go do what you want. No one cares about you because you're small, you're weak. The Jewish people, we're small, we're weak, and everyone cares about us. Everyone's throwing us around. Everyone's kicking us all over. Why is that? Doesn't make any sense. Ki yipalel mecha davar. If you'll wonder what's going on. And then you'll wonder more specifically, ben dam le dam. Blood and blood. You know what that means, blood and blood? Why is it? Why is it that some blood, God says you should cover, and then yet our blood, He says, doesn't matter. It's flowing. Ben din le din. Or you'll ask, how could it be that there's a law that you have to cover? You can't kill a mother and its baby, but yet God allowed children and parents to die. Or ben nega le nega. How could it be that when it comes to money of a house of leprosy, God's chas, God is sensitive to the money. But when it comes to the temple, God was insensitive. He couldn't care. He destroyed everything. How could it be? Right? You know what the answer? Divrei rivot bisharecha. Because there's fighting. Al yedeh meribot. Because of contention. Because of dispute. Because of a lack of peace. Gorem lechol zeh. All of this happens. You need to know that in history, when we had peace, if you had shalom, you were good to go. Can I give you two examples? David HaMelech, think about how good of a king he was. And think about how much Torah was being learned. And yet, they would go out to war, people would die, there would be casualties. And the time of Achav, the worst king, Avodah Zarah, idolatry all over, and yet they would go to war, and no one would die. You know why? Because in the times of David HaMelech, there was daltorin, there were informers, there were whistleblowers, right? There was fighting, there was squealing, there was contention, there was machloket, there was, right, gossip, there was knocking. The time of Achav, you're right, they did the worst sins. They bowed to idols and everything, but at least they had peace. And therefore, the peace was enough to protect them. Just look at the flood. In the generation of the flood, they didn't do right. God destroyed them. Because of what? What were they doing wrong? Stealing from each other. A few dollars. Backstabbing. A few dollars, okay. So I told him 4%. So what if I only give him 3%? Right? He's still getting a lot of money from me. Right? In the next generation, the tower of Bavel, over there, what were they doing? What was their crime? The worst crime. Avodah Zarah, fighting against God. Which one would you say is worse? Stealing a few bucks or fighting God? I would think fighting God is worse, but that's not what history proves. That's not what the punishment shows. The punishment of the flood, they were all killed. The punishment of the tower, they were just dispersed, but they stayed alive because at least they had peace. At least there was harmony. Harmony, my friends, is so important. So important. Rabbi Elazar HaKapar Omer. Listen to what Rabbi Elazar says. Ahavu et hashalom. Make sure you love peace. Vesenu et hamachloket. Stay away from fighting. Gadol hashalom, because peace is so powerful. She'afilu b'sha'ah she'Yisrael ovdin avodah zarah. Even if we worship idols, but if we have peace, God says, I can't touch them. Habur atzabim Ephraim. When Ephraim is joined, leave him alone. If we're joined, hanach lo, leave him alone. Leave him alone. We're worshiping idols, but they have peace. Leave him alone. That's a power, my friends, of shalom. So says the Pasuk, says the Arizal, if you're wondering between dam and dam, how come our blood flowed and no one covered it? If you're wondering, what about the deen? What about the tzaraat? God says, you know why? Divrei rivot, because there was fighting. And what is the solution, my friends? Ve'kamta ve'alita, get up and go el hamakom. Go to the place, go to Jerusalem. Go to the city that unites all. Sheba na'asu kol Yisrael chaberim. Go to the place of Torah, of scholars. Talmidei chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam. You know what that means? That rabbis increase shalom in the world? What does that mean that rabbis increase shalom in the world? So, I'll tell you a few different layers of this. One layer, that rabbis increase shalom, is that you have a machloket, you go to the rabbi and he makes peace. Right? The rabbi makes peace between you and your spouse, you and your friend. My brother told me that there's two guys in the shul. This is more in the joking way of understanding the pasuk. If there's two guys in the shul fighting, they don't like each other. Then all of a sudden a rabbi comes, they both don't like him, so the two guys now become friends. So the rabbi now brought shalom between the two enemies, right? Because they both don't like the rabbi. Okay, cute. But you know what else it is? When you go, you see how rabbis could fight, could disagree, but it never gets personal. When you go to Jerusalem, you see how Shammai and Hillel could argue, and yet their children could still marry each other. Isn't that amazing? I could disagree with you, and I'll never pray in your shul, and you'll never pray in my shul, but we could agree to disagree, and I could still respect you for your opinions and for your decisions. Now, of course, at a certain point, a person's opinions, as they say, there's no room for such opinions, right? But we have to realize that it's not as narrow as we always think, right? Unfortunately, it's either our opinion or no opinion. That's not true. There's many opinions. The page of the Gemara is very wide. You can fit many opinions. Yes, someone did tell me, it's true, Rashi and Tosfot always argue, but at least they're on the same page. Right? At least they're on the same page. It's true. Sometimes you have to make sure you're on the page. You could fall off the page, and at a certain point, you leave the religion. But we have to realize that there's many ways, there's many paths. It's very wide. The lanes are very wide how to get to Hashem. There's not one way. We're not uniform. We're not just one narrow, my opinion or no opinion. Right? Can't be like that. It's not like that. There's many opinions. Elu ve'elu. Right? Abraham, what was his? He served God by chesed. Yitzchak, he didn't love chesed. He did chesed, but that wasn't his connect. He connected through prayer, through right avodah, praying. Yaakov, he didn't pray. He prayed, but that was not how he connected. Of course they all prayed. Of course they all did chesed. Of course they all learned. But each one had his specific connection. Yeah? Each one had their way that they connected. So this is such a powerful idea. When you're wondering why is there so much blood, divrei rivot, because we're fighting. And the solution, go to Jerusalem. Go see. There's a way to argue. There's a way to argue. Arguing? Of course you should argue. You shouldn't change how you think. If this is how you think, this is how you believe, it's fine. You could hold on to your opinion. Rarely in the Gemara do you see one rabbi conceding to the other. Sometimes you say, after 3 years, they ended up agreeing to the other side. But most of the time, the dispute remains a dispute. And that's okay. That's okay. You're allowed to dispute. But don't let it turn personal. Don't let it turn into fighting. It's okay, we could argue. Why do we have to fight? Why do we have to hate? Why do we have to knock? Why do we have to start all the violence? Why do we have to start canceling? Why do we have to cancel? Why can't we realize that if you're not my opinion, it's okay. There's still room for you. There's still room. There's still room for other people that are not like me exactly. We're not uniform. We don't all look alike. We don't all think alike. Go to Jerusalem, says the pasuk. Go see how you could argue and still be friends. In a marriage, we could argue. It's okay. And 70% of the arguments will never be resolved. 70%, I will hold on to my side and my spouse will hold on to their side. It's okay. But don't let it turn into a fight. We could still have love. You could still love the person that you disagree with. We could still love each other. There could still be ahava. Shammai and Hillel, they fought, they disagreed, but they loved each other. They never let it become personal. This is such a powerful pasuk, such a powerful lesson, my friends, especially as we are now entering the month of Elul. We are entering the month of Elul, where we are here to seek forgiveness from God. And the best way really is to ask ourselves, who are the people that we need to forgive? Who are the people, if I want forgiveness, I need to start forgiving. Who are the people that I need to start making room for? If I want to have a good year, maybe I have to first clean my slate. I don't need to wait till Yom Kippur to apologize. That's a last resort. Start today. Who's that one person that you don't like? Think about it. Is there someone that you don't like? I'm not asking you if you get along with majority of people. I think majority of people get along with majority of people. What I'm saying is there one person that you don't like? One person. I think we all have one person that maybe we just a little bit jealous of, or we talk negatively about. How could I start this today? We're entering tonight Rosh Chodesh Elul. How could I work as we get into Elul, the month of Rachamim, the month of mercy? How could I start working on being more merciful to people? If I want mercy, I have to be merciful. I have to give mercy. If I want forgiveness, I have to forgive. Who are the people that I need to apologize? Who are the people that I need to call? Who are the people that maybe I don't see eye to eye with? But I have to remember that I shouldn't let it get personal. It's okay. It's okay. You could be you and I could be me. And we could still have a beautiful, beautiful family and a community and a world with different opinions. How boring would the world be if it was black and white? Color is beautiful. Difference of opinions is beautiful. That's what makes a family. If you and your spouse saw everything eye to eye, it'd be a very boring marriage. Just you married yourself. Chazak Baruch. So you know what? Why are you getting married for? Don't get married. You want kids? Go adopt a kid. You could have, right? If you're just here to be with yourself all day and someone that agrees to you all day, then walk around with a mirror. Or get a robot that could just be you. Yeah? You didn't get married for that reason. E'eselo ezer kenegdo. What did God say when He created a wife for man? I'm going to make him a helper against him. That wife helps by being against. That's how we grow. When there's two things opposing each other, we come to some type of new creation, some new invention. So we break new ground. But there has to be different opinions. Yeah? Two puzzle pieces that are exactly alike can never connect. Does that make sense? Two puzzle pieces that are alike. If they're the same puzzle piece, you can't connect them. The puzzle piece needs its opposite. So if you're going out with somebody and they don't think like you, and you find that you're one way and they're a different way, that's nice. That's a good thing. Now, of course, certain things need to be aligned. Values need to be aligned. But sometimes you'll see personalities are different. I'm very loud, she's very quiet. I'm an introvert, she's an extrovert. I'm very neat, she's maybe not. I'm very punctual, he's not, right? You'll find, and that's a nice thing. That's a nice thing. We're not always going to agree on everything. Impossible. No one's identical. No one's identical in looks, no one's identical in thought. Right? En penehem shavot, en datehen shavot, the Gemara says. We don't look alike, we don't think alike. But, disagree. It's okay. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have your issues. You're allowed to have things that you don't always see eye to eye on. But don't fight. Don't fight. Don't fight. Don't let it become a fight. Don't let it escalate. Don't let it turn into something that doesn't need to turn into. Don't let it ruin the harmony. The moment it ruins the harmony, you lost. Even if you got your way, you lost. Because you lost something much more important. Because the harmony is the most important thing. Just think about a pyramid. Harmony's on top. Issues are second. Disagree on issues. But the moment the issue is going to make a crack into shalom, then you lost. Don't let it penetrate the shalom. Yeah? And if there is, then go look at how Kohanim and Leviim disagree. They disagree, but there's lots of love. There's lots of respect. I could respect you for thinking your way. I could respect the differences between us. And their kid married each other. Could there be a greater form of love than allowing your child? I mean, just think about it. Just imagine your child wanted to marry someone who goes to the opposite shul of where, the other shul that you don't pray in, that's different from you, or the other club, right? We don't go to that. We don't go to that, right? That's not our club. We don't, right? Would you let your kid marry someone from the other side? Hillel and Shammai didn't, no problem. So this is the Arizal. I think it's a very powerful idea. As we enter again this month of Elul, coming tonight, Rosh Chodesh, everybody, I want to wish you all a Chodesh Tov Vorach, where we be blessed with the ability to have shalom, to have peace, and to be able to forgive the people around us. This way we will merit from above forgiveness and will merit all the blessings coming our way. Amen. We'll stop over here, everyone. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.